Music is so groovy, I had my eyes closed for a minute.
Forgot that we were podcasting.
I forgot where I was. Good morning.
Good
morning, Justin. Good morning, everybody. We're back.
We are back.
Kind of. Yeah, we're back mostly. A little foggy.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a break there. What did we have,
Had
2
a
or
bit
3
of a
weeks
break.
off?
Yeah, the 19th of December was the last podcast that we had live, and obviously it's still available on YouTube if you want to go back and watch that, or any of our past episodes. Well, I told you I was cloudy. But this is the Camera Life podcast, and it's episode 44, the first episode of 2025. It is the 9th of January already. So yeah, welcome back, Justin.
Thanks. It's good to be back. How was your How was your everything?
Everything was good, actually. So I've got a fairly large family. My partner Sasha and I, we have 5 children, 3 of which are adults, so all still living at home, and we've got 2 teenagers, and our youngest 2 were on school holidays, so there was always someone around. But yeah, good times, busy times.
Busy
just sort of
times.
everyone coming over. We had Christmas at our place, so I know that's not very woke to say Christmas, but I don't really care because it's Christmas to us. We celebrate Christmas in that we eat a lot of food.
Yeah, that's Christmas, really.
Yeah, just
Pretty
having
much.
a great family day. We had all the family over because there's 7 of us. We don't go to anyone else's house because transportation's impossible. So everyone comes to us, which is nice. So it's a very chilled day. Lots of food, little nap in the afternoon. Mind you, that's every day for me. How about you, mate?
You are getting to that age. We have to have a nap.
Yeah, just before we went live, we were talking about how I need hearing aids. So if anyone wants to fund my GoFundMe page for hearing aids,
We'll get you the finest ones that money can buy.
Wow, yeah, that's a lot of money for the finest. Even the cheapest are a lot of money.
Elena's in the comments. Morning, Elena. If anyone else is out there in the internet world, let us know in the chat because we need people to talk to today. It's going to be just Greg and I chatting about 2025.
And we chatted 2 days ago for like 2 hours, so we don't.
That's right.
We run out of things to talk. No, we have nothing in common. We have no shared interests. And I spent most of the time going, "What? Say that again? Didn't hear you."
Turn your headphones up.
Yeah, I did. But for those of you watching along, just a reminder that we're coming to you live from Victoria in Australia. It's 9 o'clock in the morning here. Where are you? What time is it where you are? Speak up. Have a say in the comments. Let us know where you are, where you're watching from. We always love to find out where people are and what their interest in photography is. But yeah, it's been a hot minute. And, I think we talked a little bit about this the other day, Justin, but also just before we went live about that, finding your feet again at the start of a new year, because Christmas, for some, not for everyone, because not everyone celebrates Christmas, and some people just work right through, they don't get that sort of break that we chose to take. I guess that's part of the benefit of being self-employed. But there's often a slump at this time of year.
What do you mean a slump? Like a creative slump or like an energy slump? What are we?
A little bit of both. Like maybe not a slump so much. Definitely not a rut, unless you were already in one. But start of a new year, you're getting back into work. If you've got family, you've got to start thinking about when the kids are going back to school. The holiday's over kind of thing for a lot of us.
I think, and again, like you say, not everyone has that kind of Christmas to New Year time off, but a lot of people do. And the people that do, the other tough thing is that period of time where you try and maximize your holiday. So you're away till like Sunday afternoon. And then you get home, maybe if you've got a family, you get home with a car full of everyone's crap. And then you start unloading it just into the garage or whatever. And then the next morning you're back to work. And it's it's pretty hectic time, I think, for a lot of people. It is. Even though you've had some holidays, it's not always the most relaxing period where you transition from holiday back to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you do over your break, Justin? What did you get up to?
I went up the river. I took all my camera gear. So up to the
When you
Murray
say
River.
the river, can you explain that to the folks who aren't?
Near Echuca, the Murray River. It's a very big river in Australia. It's the border between New South Wales and Victoria. I don't know.
It forms most of the border, doesn't it?
It does most of the border. There's a lot of stats about how big it is, and I don't know any of them. But I've travelled a fair chunk of it. And the family goes up there just near Echuca, and we hang out, and it's really nice.
Yep.
But my nephews were there, and they're crazy. So a lot of the time was just spent entertaining them, and I ended up not taking any photos or using my cameras at all. And I feel a bit guilty about it. Not once. Well, actually, no, that's not true. I got the drone out once to do a favour for our next door neighbour up there.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
Take some insurance photos for him. They weren't very creative. And so other than that, no, I didn't even, like the Leica just stayed tucked away. I thought I'd bring that out all the time, and I didn't. And yeah, I don't know. I just wasn't feeling it. And then, like, do you do, like, on Christmas, do you get the camera out? Do you take any family photos or any candid shots?
Sometimes I do. Like, when it's the kids' birthdays, we do a thing where, you know, because coordinating 5 adults and 2 teenagers to appear for a birthday celebration at the same time, like to get up in the morning and do presents before everyone goes off to do their thing, is quite challenging. So often I'll get out the camera because it's a unique opportunity to get everyone together and get some family shots, even though they're just candid. No one's posing. I'm just documenting the moment. But this time I didn't. I haven't gotten my camera out for probably a month to use. I dropped it in I've got a crumpler, a fairly nice size crumpler, and I put my little Fujifilm X70 in it, which takes up no room. You know, it's only a few hundred grams in weight. And I've put it in my bag a few times thinking I'll take it. And when I get down to the street, walking down to the main street down here at Chapel Street in Paran, I think, yeah, I'll get it out at some point. And then I get home and realize I just completely ignored it. So it's an interesting. So when I tell you that there's a little bit of a slump, going back to that point, I think maybe I'm just out of practice. I'm out of the practice of going, okay, I'm going to go down to the street, not to do chores, not to pick up Christmas presents, not to post things at the post office. I'm going down just to take photos, you know, and I've fallen out of practice of making myself do that. Over anything else. Even the incidental stuff isn't happening. So yeah.
That is certainly one of those things that it's like sometimes it's really hard to take photos whilst you're doing another activity. Sometimes it's easy because it just kind of all unfolds in front of you. But yeah, other times it's like I think that's what happened over these last few weeks is I was immersed in the activities, and I think having a camera out would have kind of gotten in the way of that.
Yeah.
It's odd. I don't know.
It is odd.
David from California is here. He said he just walked in from the streets of San Francisco trying to empty a couple of film cameras. What were you shooting with, David? What cameras
let us know,
and
mate.
what film stock? Getting some cool shots.
We'd love to see some of your work.
Yeah, where can we see your work? Tell us.
Please let us know.
Is it on the gram? You got a website? Show us.
Yeah, show us. And it's that goes for anyone that's listening. Let us know.
Actually, that's a good idea. If you're listening, tell us now, and we'll look at your Instagram. Show us
now, right here, live.
Yeah, right here. Let's look at some of your work.
Yeah,
because I certainly don't post my work, so we can't look at mine.
Yeah, the only thing I've posted recently on my gram is my Christmas Day lunch preparation.
Oh yeah,
which I must show you. Actually, it's quite impressive. I think.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen it, Justin.
I don't believe so.
That's rude. I thought we were mates.
I don't spend a lot of time on social media. While Greg's pulling that up, I guess the theme for the show is, if you haven't seen this scrolling banner going across the bottom, is 2025 photography goals. And maybe we'll do a little bit of a look back at 2024. We might even have a sneak peek at some gear rumors that are floating around about new gear that's going to get released in the upcoming year. But mainly we want to talk about what we want to do in 2025 and ways that you can make a plan so that you don't get to the end of the year and think, I didn't use my camera much and I didn't get any great images, because you've really got to make a plan and put the work in It doesn't just happen for you. That's how I've found it anyway. So
yeah,
that's the theme of today's show.
Yeah, we just want to talk about that. Let me just bring up my Instagram quickly. I just want to show you the sort of stuff I've been doing with my photography recently, and it mostly has just been with my iPhone. I'm not proud of this,
You're one of those.
but well, it's just because it's there, Oh, look, there's Justin in Japan.
It's actually Jim. I took that photo.
Oh, is it?
That is actually Jim in Japan. Yeah, you can't tell because I made sure to cover his face with his hands and his camera so that
he has such feminine fingers.
His strange face.
So mostly food.
Okay, that is a lot of food, and then a cat.
And here's Christmas Day. That's what I did for Christmas Day.
Oh wow!
Where did you
go?
We just had cold meats, seafood, lots of breads, and cheese and dips, and we just went nuts. And that lasted for about. We didn't have to cook for about 5 days.
That's the best thing. It's like you just leftovers and overs and overs and overs.
But out of these, I don't think any of these. That's my son, Brendan, Boogie. We call him Boogie. I don't think any of these. I'm terrible at keep being consistent. Up until about here, none of these. These are all just food shots of dinner, and that's all I've been doing. It's pretty slack.
So you've sort of gone full circle back to what Instagram started as. Just iPhone photos of food with filters on them.
Food and cats.
You're back. It's back to OG Instagram.
Yeah. But then looking at last year, these are some of the images that I took last year. There's Ian Tan, alumni of the show. Good man, Ian, good friend. But so I really didn't produce. I mean, I did do a lot more photos, but I certainly didn't post as many of them here to the gram. This is one of my favorites, shot in Melbourne. She looks like a Bendigo mum to me.
Why Bendigo? Explain.
I don't know. She just looks like a Bendigo mum. She looks a bit rough.
Ouch.
So David has replied. Sorry, we're waffling a bit here, everybody. But David has replied to say he rotates about 13 film cameras.
Well, what were you shooting with today?
Yeah, let's hear about today.
Yeah, what we
cameras, film stock. And please, if you want to, let us know where we can see some of your stuff. But anyway, that's enough about me.
Enough about you. Moving on. So you wrote an article about 2025 photography goals.
I did. Should I bring it up and have a look just quickly, and then we can talk in more detail.
Send out to the Lucky newsletter. I foolishly made a mistake, and the first few people that were opening the email wouldn't have been able to even see the article, which is a bit sad. But then
here I am again. More about me.
It is live. Yeah, it is all about you.
So I kicked off the year because some of you will know, but not everyone. I write articles for the Lucky Straps blog. Have done on and off for a number of years now, hasn't it?
It's been a while.
Yeah, since before COVID, I think.
Yes.
And the first review I actually wrote, one of the first reviews I wrote for shotkit.com was a Lucky Straps leather strap review. Anyway, enough promotion. So I wrote this article about what are your photography goals for the new year for 2025, because I wanted to quickly get in and address that kind of slump I talked about a little bit at the start of today's show. We talked about, I'm out of practice. I'm out of the habit of looking for an opportunity to take my camera out, and even the incidental stuff is passing me by. So I thought, what a great time to reflect on last year and think about the year ahead. And I think it's a good opportunity for everybody, every visual creative or creative for that matter, of any sort, to plan a little bit about what do I want to achieve, what do I want to learn, and how do I want to make the most of my photography in the new year. And so I wrote an article to provide a little bit of inspiration to people around, I guess, different ways that you can motivate yourself. You can set yourself goals, short-term, long-term, lofty, quick wins, the whole gamut. So it's a little bit of a longer article than I normally write, but I was saying to Justin this morning before we started this show how much fun it was to write this article. I write for a living, and sometimes articles can feel a little, you get to a point, when you're writing articles that it's hard not to sound like you're saying the same things over, but this was a lot of fun because it gave me a really fresh perspective on the new year ahead. So I encourage everyone to have a quick look. We'll drop the link in the show notes and in the comments at the end of the show, and it's also on the Lucky Straps website. So I encourage you to go and have a look. But we talked about, what are the podcasts out there? Obviously, I mentioned our podcast because it is the greatest photography podcast in the world, clearly.
I saw that was right at the start of the article. I was like, there's a shameless plug. How to have a better 2025 for photography. Watch our podcast.
Well, the reason why I put that, it's a good point, Justin, and there's method to my madness. The reason why I put that first is that watching a podcast is a quick win, and it's something you can do on your way to work. It's something you can do in your downtime in the evening after family's gone to bed, or or on your lunch break at work, or even while you're working. You can have the audio going and no one needs to know. No, your boss doesn't need to know you're listening to a podcast. Just do it. Okay, it's good for you. But a podcast, it doesn't have to be ours. We want you to watch any podcast. We want you to watch them all. Because for us here at The Camera Life, one of our goals is that if we can motivate one person to pick up a camera and go out when they otherwise wouldn't have, then, I think we've won the day. If we motivate 100, that's better. But, if we help people understand a bit more about their craft and feel a bit motivated, or get some new ideas, or hear from a guest and go, oh, you know what? I think I'm going to book a photography tour. Fuck it. I'm going to do it this year. Then that's what we're here to do. We're not here to shamelessly plug our podcast. We're not here to shamelessly plug Lucky Straps even. We barely mention it. Proudly brought to you by Lucky Straps.
I was waiting for that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
anyway,
there's so many different podcasts out there, and you can even use it as a way to dive into a genre that you haven't sort of had much experience with. Find a street photography podcast or a landscape photography podcast. Get excited by listening to a couple episodes and then get out there and give it a try yourself.
Yeah.
Or otherwise, just, I don't know. It's like you say, it's a low barrier to entry way to maybe get a few ideas percolating in your brain and inspire you to bring the camera out on your next adventure.
And good things about podcasts is that, I know at the moment in some places, like I don't know how, but currently in California, there's crazy fires burning in the Palisades area, while at the same time in other parts of America, they are experiencing some of the worst winter storms on record. It sounds a bit like Victoria, to be fair.
Yeah.
We often have those sorts of extremes.
Four seasons in one day.
Yeah. If you're stuck at home, or maybe you're recuperating from something, or, you really want to get out and shoot, but the weather's just not for it, then watch a podcast. Fill the time that you thought you were going to go out and shoot with something else creative. And like Justin said, it's a low barrier entry point into learning, getting inspired, all that sort of stuff. And there's heaps of photography podcasts out there. You don't have to watch long form stuff. There's heaps of short form stuff. Find some people you like, and let us know in the comments who you're watching, so that others, including us, may learn from that.
Speaking of comments, David number 2 for today is in the house. The drunk
Morning,
wedding
David.
photographer, also from California. Hope you're not near the fires. Hopefully everything's all good with you and the people that you know.
Yeah.
Stay safe. I'm sure.
And David's also a film photographer.
It's a dumb thing for me to say. I'm pretty sure if you were having some trouble with the giant fires that they're having there, you probably wouldn't be listening to this podcast live. So hopefully you're all good, and everyone you know is all good.
Unless you're incredibly dedicated.
Yeah, which we appreciate.
Yeah, we value. And David is also shoots weddings with film, and he's gone on to say that, and this is high praise, this podcast is unintentional ASMR.
Is it unintentional or is it intentional?
Yeah, or are we planning this for you?
Hard to know.
I need to grab my nails long so we can do some unboxings. Have you seen those unboxings where the girls use their nails on the box and tap, tap, tap? They do ASMR. It's so incredibly frustrating.
I hate that stuff.
And our other David, he's from Southern Cal. Oh, no, sorry. David, the drunk wedding photographer, is from Southern Cal, and David Mascaro, I hope I pronounced that right, mate. He's in Northern I don't know where the fires are. Justin, you've been to California.
Yeah, I believe they're in the Palisades, just like north of Santa Monica, south of Malibu. So to us Australians, like LA, kind of. But yeah, it's so big and so spread out. I'm assuming that David, the drunk wedding photographer, is a little bit south of that area. So
yeah.
But either way,
be safe.
So yeah, stay safe and watch a podcast. Now, once people have listened to a few episodes of the podcast and they're ready to get out and use their camera, what other topics are we going to dive into about 2025?
Well, if we use should we use the article as reference, or should we just chat?
We'll just chat.
All right.
Whatever.
I'm gonna shut this down. You guys can check out the article. It's on the Lucky Straps website. All the photos are mine, by the way. Finally got to pull out some of my photos. There's another Instagram photo. Cat. Look, Justin, I think, you can go large or go home, or you can just set yourself some realistic stuff. There's no point setting goals and I find this with just the whole new resolution process. I see people set these really lofty goals and for life.
Yeah.
And life doesn't work that way necessarily. You've got to be flexible. You've got to float with it. It's good to have goals, but you've also got to have the room to flex.
Yes.
But having said that, I think one of the easiest ways to start off with New Year goals is to set yourself a challenge, a simple challenge. And this might be just to get you started for the year. It might just be the spark that kindles the flame. Sorry for the Californian folks. So, I think there's a whole bunch of different challenges that you can do. And Justin, you've been an exemplary role model for challenges over 2024, in that, you found yourself at a point where you'd stopped, predominantly stopped doing your wedding photography business with Jim. It's still going, but you've stepped back from it.
Yes.
From the Justin and Jim wedding photography service out of Bendigo, Victoria. And you found yourself in a place where you had all of his camera gear, but you didn't know what to do with it. What was next for you? Where were you going to hunt light next? And how is that going to work, given that you'd spent so much time working in weddings, a decade working in weddings, that all of a sudden, you might not necessarily have a good looking couple that are willing to pose in every way that you ask them to,
Yeah, exactly. And what it was trying to figure out, like, what is it without someone telling me what they want and paying me to do it. You know what I mean? And even though there was still creativity in those jobs, once you take that thing away where there's a client to please, and it opens up the door to you can really do whatever you want. I don't know. I found it tricky and it was hard. So the first thing I did really, obviously, so there's a couple of things we did. Since before COVID, we'd been talking about traveling to doing a big trip to the US and Mexico. We did that. That wasn't a photo challenge. It was 3 months. That's not something that most people can do at the drop of a hat. We'd been planning it for a long time and saving up for it for a long time. But
by we, you mean you and Yelena, not you and me. We're not romantically involved.
Yes, that's right. Me and Yelena went, and while it wasn't a photo challenge, I did kind of make it a little bit of a photo challenge in the sense that I just took one camera, the Leica Q3, on that trip, and pushed myself to find, I guess, a new way of traveling with very limited camera gear and enjoying the photos that I could take and letting go the photos that weren't possible with that camera. You can't zoom right in on a dolphin swimming by one of the piers in California, but that's just life, So that was the first thing that I did that was kind of freed me from my normal professional photography kit and I took on more of a personal photography kind of aspect to it, which was really good. And I can show you some of the images from that. Actually, have you seen any of those images? Maybe.
Yeah. I actually follow you on Instagram. I actually look at your photos.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. Let me pull some up.
But yes, I have seen most of them, I think.
And this was, let's go. Here we go. This was, I'll just get, they're a bit posted all over the place because Yelena ended up having to post them for me. So most of them were posted by Yelena 3 months after we did the trip, because that's how good I am. But basically, we just rocked around, and I took images with the Q3, all unedited JPEG straight out of camera. And that's where that kind of unedited JPEG thing really came into play, because I found that images from trips were just getting left on hard drives because I didn't have a reason to post them. Yeah, I was struggling with a reason to edit them, if that makes sense. Yep. So absolutely. by just accepting like these are what they are, that's what I did. That's what I shot, and it was very freeing. That's for sure. Yeah. So these. And I think
also it's unedited JPEG. Sorry, the words. Unedited JPEGs out of a camera like a Leica Q3. Man, I'm struggling. Like the dynamic range is gorgeous, and as are the colors.
Yes.
So it also makes that task easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. A good camera certainly does make it easier. And that is one reason I often get a little tempted by the old Fujis, but that's a topic for another day. But
it's a topic for every day.
You certainly could improve some of them, but why do we have that mindset with film where it's like it is what it is and we're cool with it? You don't get your film scans back. Well, I guess a lot of people do edit film scans, but you know what I mean? Like you're more comfortable with like, oh, that's the photo. That is the look that it is. Yeah. You don't try and squeeze out more out of the the processing or whatever. So it was just I enjoyed it. I really did. And also so it did help to the first part of the trip, Santa Monica and Venice Beach, that's what these photos are from. Like, look, the sunsets looked freaking epic. So I was getting shots in the camera. I was like, okay, this is cool. I don't have to edit these. They can just be exactly like they are. And that's what I'm going to do for the whole trip. So I was very happy with some of these images that we got. Yeah. Especially this Bubba Gump Shrimp Company one. I don't know why I like that. I think because it's Forrest Gump, but
Yeah, and the lighting's cool.
The lighting is very cool. And again, that was straight out of camera. Yeah. So I did use white balance a lot as a tool. So when shooting JPEG straight out of camera, getting your white balance correct to try and match the feel of the scene that you're shooting is obviously way more important than shooting raw.
So what would you have, in this example, for those following along at home, what would you have done with white balance to, say, in a shot like this? Would you have warmed it? Would you have gone red a little?
Yeah, warmed it. So it's probably, just setting it to like cloudy probably.
Okay.
As opposed to, so locking it to so rather than it trying to find white, if you leave it on auto white balance, and every camera handles that differently. Some are really good at preserving like the warm feel. Others try and make it white and they'll get rid of that warmth of the lighting. So yeah, it was more just, not going crazy tweaking in the deep menus, like some of the, you can adjust tint and stuff like that with white balance. Now it's more just like locking it to, on my Canon, I'll just use Kelvin and just, it's very easy to set it to a control ring and literally just dial it in with Kelvin.
Yeah, okay.
Up and down. I really do enjoy shooting that way when I'm shooting JPEGs on the Canon, but the Leica, I just use the, cloudy daylight or whatever just to kind of lock it to the scene that I'm shooting.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there are a couple, and then jumping forward, it's all kind of more of the same, but we went to, where does it start? not there.
That's Vietnam, isn't it?
No, that was actually Bendigo. Vietnam. So we went to Mexico City, cruised around, obviously shot a lot of buildings because that's all that was there, really. And back into the States, it was wonderful. Like having just one camera to get out. This was in Nashville, and just, you know, no one has any problem with you bringing a Leica into music venues and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it makes it very easy, and it makes it an easy decision to pick it up and take it out of the hotel room. I did have a little Bellroy satchel to put it in. I like Bellroy. Sometimes. Yeah, it was cool. I like a leather one though. I'd like a company to make a little leather satchel.
I don't think there was a company we knew that made leather camera products.
If only.
Jesus. Sometimes you baffle me.
Yeah,
I think it's a good point you raise about limiting again. I've written about this countless times, and there's an article on Lucky Straps as well about it, because I tend to recycle my articles and just charge multiple times. But the benefit of walking out wherever you are, whether you're on holiday or at home, with just the one camera, one lens, or a fixed lens camera, with nothing else, no other gear, maybe in a little satchel, like you said, maybe a spare battery, and just work with what you've got. There's a lot to learn from that experience. Yes. I think, because it forces you to consider composition, and it forces you to work with the limitations of the lens you've got.
Yeah, but not only that, I found while traveling, it reduced all of the decision making purely down to, am I taking my camera out or not? And then if I really wanted to make it less of a decision, I would just tell myself, I always take my camera. And because it was light enough and easy enough. So because usually it would be, all right, am I taking my camera out or not? Okay, which lens would I take? Or, do I just take a camera and one lens, and which one? Or do I take, a bag with some stuff in it and all that sort of stuff?
So as a comparison, what gear did you take down to the river, to the Murray River over the holidays?
Well, that's a little bit different. I packed everything. But that's partially because I don't love leaving it at home unattended. So sometimes it's easier just to pack my Pelican case with the gear and put it in the van, and then it's kind of with me if I want to do something with it, but also it's with me in terms of safety. So a little bit different. But it does. It then makes it a bigger decision of like,
which camera,
what camera, what lens, what am I doing?
Yeah.
So. I don't know. And I did really enjoy shooting with the Q3, but I certainly missed a few shots that I would have liked to take that had autofocus, which the trip to Vietnam, I took the Canon gear as well and enjoyed using autofocus again.
So you're like a Q3. What lens? You've got the 28mm?
The 20. It's the OG one. Yeah, 1.7.
And so how do you think that would have been on that same trip?
Yes.
How much different do you think having the 43mm would have been? What would that have changed for you?
Everything. So,
it's 43, isn't it? Or 40?
43.
43mm, the other Q3.
Yeah. It would have changed everything, because if we have a look at, I don't know, what else have we got here? There's not much here. Hey, look, San Francisco, David. San Fran.
There you go.
These aren't the world's greatest photos of a bridge, but we were there, so we did it anyway. We just got in and out quickly so that they didn't steal the stuff out of our car. Is the word on the street. But if you imagine this image with the 43, like, I know you can shoot vertically and stitch together, 3 or 4 shots and shoot wider, but I was shooting JPEG, so the last thing I want to do is like go from shooting JPEGs all the way to having to stitch panoramas. But that obviously could do that with a 43, no problem. This shot is actually shots of these seals just chilling out. They're all seals. You can't tell, but it was kind of cool.
So maybe with the 43, that would have been a little bit more obvious.
Could have been closer. Could have been better. That one wouldn't have mattered. That one I probably could have done something with, but it would have been quite different. Yeah, I
So
don't
it's
know.
interesting how a single lens change can alter your photography experience so much, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
But having choice, if at the time you had choice, it might have been a completely different creative experience for you,
look,
because you would have
if I
spent more time fishing in your bag.
if I could have a Q3, I know they can't do this, but I'm just going to say it anyway. If I could have a Q3 where you just like there's a mechanical aperture ring on the lens. If there was a mechanical ring, actually there's a macro ring on the lens.
Yeah.
Which actually that macro mode's pretty cool. But let's say we ditch the macro mode and you literally just turn it and it goes from 28 to 43. It doesn't zoom. You turn it and it like clicks into the other prime lens. Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah. 28 to 50,
dream.
I think would be better. But
50 would be better, but I'd accept 43. But imagine. And I did use so there's a digital 50mm crop in the Q3 that still gets you like decent megapixels.
Yeah, there is. Because it's 60, isn't it?
It's 60, so it's got heaps of cropping power. It basically makes it a Fuji in that 50mm cropped mode.
Whatever.
Still high quality, but
here we go.
Yeah,
it's all about the megapixels to you.
It is.
Just very quickly, David has just said that he has shot off both of those spans.
Yeah, I bet you've got way better images too.
Does he mean from the foot of the upright or from the top of the span?
Oh, you mean up the top here?
Can you get up the top?
You've taken photos up here, David?
I know I've seen Spider-Man up there, but
can you get up there? Or do you just
I know you can get to the feet. No. David, let us know.
Yeah, what do you mean? It's a cool.
What are the options?
It is quite amazing.
Off the top. Get out of town.
Get right out of town.
Grant, come on, man. Full frame for life. It's a very limited view.
Yeah, there's also medium format.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so
good morning, Grant.
Good morning, Grant.
Sorry,
did you come on the show, Grant?
Yeah,
I didn't know you weren't working today. Or are you working?
Oh, are you working?
Certainly, once we got into the national parks and stuff, 43 would have limited me a bit more. We've really fucking sidetracked this show from photography goals to just looking through photos. Anyway, keep on moving. This is Lake Tahoe, and again, I like being able to capture like a shot like this. I guess a 43 would work. I don't know.
You could.
I would have made it work just fine. I do really like the 28, especially for bringing people into the environment as well. So
yeah, I mean, you can make any lens work in the situation. It's just whether you get the composition that you'd prefer.
I tell you what, if Leica want to sponsor me and send me on exactly the same trip, but this time with the 43, and then I can come back and do a bit of a comparison review, you know, I think
that's a fair. I think that's a fair request. I don't think that's out of, out of
very
question.
Valuable for them too.
Yeah, I think so. I think and given your reach.
Yeah. That's right. My huge audience. In Yosemite and stuff. I mean, you could go way wider in Yosemite, but 28 seemed quite. It was definitely a good all rounder for a travel. Because remember too, we weren't getting up at 5 a.m. to chase the light and stuff like that. We're on holidays. I wanted to take photos, but it wasn't a photo trip. It was a holiday, and I just wanted to be able to look back and be like, oh yeah, I remember we were there at that time. But like as you'll see with most of these shots, they're all just like midday, because by the time you got into the park and went on a hike, that's just what it was.
Oh, look at that!
It's insane. The terrain is crazy. Is so insane compared to.
See, I don't have, and I'm sorry for our American listeners, I don't have any desire to go to the US for photography, other than to maybe go to some of the parks. Because as an early film photography student, Ansel Adams was my hero. Like I just thought the stuff he could do with the gear that he had was just phenomenal.
Yeah,
and it's always inspired me. Monument Valley, Death Valley, Grand Canyon, Yosemite.
Yeah,
but yeah,
Route 66.
Oh yeah.
I'm just kidding. But yeah, that's what some of these images are. Perfect sort of camera for that kind of stuff. Just bopping around and getting, snapshots, I guess, of it's this is probably the one spot that I think I did okay in. Which was
how many photographers were behind you?
Look, not
tourists?
Many, because this is one of the slot canyons, Antelope Canyon, but there's multiple Antelope Canyons, and this was Antelope Canyon X, which is like the poor cousin of the other Antelope Canyons. So way less people and less photographers, but it was still pretty busy, and it was still kind of like you move through in a group and everyone gets, most people just got photos on iPhones of them in the canyon. I think I probably was the only person there with maybe there was one other person with a non-phone camera. But yeah, it wasn't a big photography thing. I think it was also the wrong time of day to get the
beautiful shot though,
magical shots. But and
the Leica Reds, you can't deny the Leica Reds.
Yeah, well, this is straight out of camera. Yeah. And yeah, I think some of the shots were pretty good. But I think, your shit. I think it's also like you could go wider for sure in there, but again, it's like, do you want to drag a whole bag of stuff around? And I don't know. Anyway, so
interesting.
Rounding around a long freaking story short about challenges. This was, while not specifically a photo challenge, I found ways through like limitation and make like gear limitation, but also making gear easier to access. And the photos easier to access, to encourage me to take more images while I'm out.
And I think what's especially
on a 3-month trip.
What's especially good in that situation, whilst you don't always want to have, and I'm not plugging Lucky Straps here necessarily, but you don't always want to have your camera on a strap, and that's fine because of safety. And, if you're carrying a heavy, even if it is just a single camera and lens, it is a weight on you. But having a lightweight bag, like a sling, or just having it tucked into your travel bag, like just your regular day pack when you travel, is great. But I always found that when I traveled to Japan, always having the camera in my hand made such a difference. Like I set myself that strict guide or rule, I guess it is, that I didn't take much gear. Like on my last trip, I took an X70 and an XE4 with one lens, a 23mm f2, and the X70 has a fixed 18mm lens. And I just enforced myself to always have one of the cameras in my hand at all times. And that in itself changed the way I looked at where I was. And they were photography holidays. They weren't just, tourist trips. I mean, they were too, but predominantly I was there to take photos and eat amazing ramen. Let's jump to some comments.
What do we got?
We've got to David talking about his being able to shoot from the top of the Golden Gate Bridge spans. He said he's got connections. Laugh out loud. I know I didn't need to spell that out, but once top shoot Blue Angels and the other
to shoot the Blue Angels, which are the US what Air Force plane precision flying team thing. I don't know what you call it. Those cool guys.
Yeah, they are they're amazing. I saw a video of them the other day, just a sloppy segue, and in pre-flight, they have their own kind of, almost like a war room, I guess, where they're all got comfy chairs and they're all sitting in there around a big table, and they were all sitting there with their eyes closed, and their leader is calling out every action.
Yeah, and they're visualizing,
and they're all using their hands and turning their head, and because with the G-forces and the barrel roll, all the stuff that they're doing, they need to be able to maintain where horizon is.
Yeah.
It was really fascinating. Anyway, segue. Grant, who's working from home, clearly working hard, Grant, Brighton, February. So we'll get up and take some photos around Mount Buffalo and maybe Mount Hotham. So that's in regional Victoria, for those of you not from the hood. And it's where Justin and I went for the Bright Festival of Photography in October. Was that October? It was.
It was October, yeah.
One of the most beautiful parts of Victoria and Australia. I think it's just a stunning location. And it sits in the valley of kind of 3 mountain ranges in a way. Really incredible. And then Grant always also has April off, driving up to the Sunshine Coast, along the coast, spots for every morning and night already planned.
This is where you and I are very, very different, Grant. I can't look at like photography spots and stuff really beforehand. It just, I don't know why. It seems hard to me to like search for them and pin them and go to them and stuff like that. I usually end up rocking up into an area and then walking along it, a trail and just seeing what I see or what. Yeah, I'm really bad at searching out for a more iconic spot or something like that, or a special, and I think that's probably what sets apart those really good landscape photographers that put so much work into, into finding one special image at one special location. Then they'll go back there over and over until they get the right conditions for what they're looking for.
Yeah. Or like Levin was saying when they landed that small plane on the glacier with, and Pinky was on that tour. Pinky Spencer, one of our past guests, and Levin Barrett, who runs photography tours, that they try to land in the same spot to get that, because it's just got such a magical view. Let's get these photos off the screen.
Oh, well,
had enough
actually,
of them.
I was going to do.
Oh, you're getting the point. You got to tie a bow in it. Sorry.
Well, I was going to, might open a little bit of a can of worms, but I'll tie a bow in it somewhat. Is to move from, because this was kind of like, there was a trying to use your camera on a trip and trying to encourage me to take it and use it and not sort of leave it in the hotel room, leave it in the bag, not end up using the photos or whatever. And I think I was reasonably successful. I certainly needed Yelena's help in posting the images. That was great that she did that, because otherwise they might not have ever got posted, but at least they were viewable for us. I had them on our phones and all that sort of stuff, whereas normally they often get left on hard drives.
Yeah.
And I thought I would use that while this is up on the screen to segue into the thing that I did next, which was kind of the opposite, which was a 30-day challenge that I did, making videos every day of me taking images. Similar in the sense that I think all of them, or most of them, a lot of them were JPEG straight out of camera. I think they were all JPEG straight out of camera.
I think you stuck to that pretty well. And black and white.
Not all black and white. Like these are some of the sets here.
Okay.
This was the first day. The difference being, I used different cameras and stuff like that. Often use just one camera and a lens, but it was different camera, different lens or whatever on different days to try and keep me excited. But it was the opposite. Instead of being on a trip and having all these new places and things to photograph, it was like, all right, every day I got to find something to take photos of in my normal life. So whether it was family like this was, or just wandering around my town, which I almost never photograph. That was day 2. Day 3, flew the drone, which again, I don't ever fly the drone, usually just to take photos around Bendigo. It's just not something that I'm that excited to do, but took photos of train stations and stuff at sunrise. It's stuff that I never did, but because I had to do it every day, I just ended up taking photos of stuff that I guess whatever was around on that particular day. This was up at Mount Hotham. Obviously, it's easier. We're up there for a snowboard trip, but it's easier when you are somewhere special at sunrise or something like that. But and then some of it was just my regular work for Flow mountain bike. But yeah, it was a completely different kind of challenge, and that might move us into the next style thing. So rather than being on a trip and taking a camera with you and trying to make the most of it, it's like, can you force yourself into some sort of photography challenge that you can do anywhere, at home, traveling, in the house, outside the house? What are some ways that you can put some guidelines around it, so that it's got some rules, I guess, and then set yourself towards it?
When I researched this topic, I had to obviously cast my mind back over the years of things I've done, things I've recommended people do, and things that I've seen friends and peers, work on. And for those of you watching or listening along at home, or Grant, who's working from home, have a look at Justin's videos of the 30-day challenge, because you see some of the, Justin explains his thought process as he goes through it. He doesn't just wander around taking shots. He's actually talking about what he's thinking and why. And you can actually see some of the hesitation in whether he thinks it's a good shot or not, because he's been so used to, doing what he's been asked to do by clients and working within a, relative formula, that all of a sudden being pushed into the back alleys of Bendigo at first thing in the morning and said, okay, go take some photos. It's a very different experience. And I think that Justin's videos demonstrate that struggle in some aspects, in actually seeing the shots that are often right before you. So I think it's a really inspiring set of videos to look through.
There's certainly a few comments kicking around of people being like, it was right there. You walked right past the shot. What are you doing?
I said that a couple of times. I did yell at my screen at one point.
Yeah.
Why are you walking away? It's just a digital file. You can delete it. Don't
just
But it wasn't just because you were being selective, which was great. I think it's rather than just run and gun, you were being a little more thoughtful and mindful about what you were trying to achieve. And I think that's part of the process, and sometimes we don't see the shot, and that's just part of it too. In terms of other challenges that you can do, sticking with the challenge topic, we'll cover some bigger picture stuff in a minute, but I made a little list of some simple challenges that you can undertake. If you live anywhere near a convenience store or a supermarket or a department store or even a photo lab, or anywhere that has like one of those print kiosks, then, I recommend every week putting 5 of your images onto an SD card, or a memory stick, and going to your local print place, whatever it is, even if it's just cheap, dirty prints, it doesn't matter, and just print 5 of your images, 4x6 or 5x7, whatever you want. It'll cost you, $1, $2 at most, less than half a cost of a coffee, and just print them, and see your images in a very different light. Blue tack them or to a wall, or stick them on the fridge for a bit, but put your photos up around you and just observe them from time to time at different times of the day in different light, and just see the photos in a very different way. And I think it's an interesting learning tool that you start to, once you're away from digital technology, looking at your own photos, you start to see elements that you probably don't always pick up on a screen. Often on a screen where trying to achieve optimal sharpness and we're trying to enhance photos, vibrancy and saturation a little to see how it looks on a screen. But yeah, just print some images and have a look at them and see what it teaches you about your work. So that's one. That's the first one. I think it's really easy.
So
while you're there,
that one you're saying, don't even take photos, just dig some out off your hard drive and print them. Like, don't even worry about, it doesn't have to be 5 new photos or whatever.
No,
just
any
just
photos
some of the ones you've had sitting there for years and just look at them in real life.
And even if you find that you've taken some shots that you like on your smartphone because you didn't have your camera and you had your smartphone and you're out and about and you saw a great sunset or something, print your smartphone photos.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Just print something. Get it on a piece of paper. Either do it at home, even if you do it at home on a cheap bubble jet printer or inkjet printer or whatever they're called now. But preferably go to a lab. Make yourself go to a space. Because while you're there, my second challenge is to grab yourself a very cheap disposable 35mm film camera. Okay. What are they, like
I was going to say,
15 bucks.
I thought they were more than that.
Well, you get I think most of them now have like 36 or 27.
Disposable film camera. Let's have a look. Kodak, $28 for, what's that? 27 frames.
Is that a waterproof one?
It might be. It's a Kodak one, which are obviously superior. No, it's got a flash, but it's just single use.
Yep.
27 frame Kodak, 28 Australian dollars. That's about $6 US, I think.
It's a little more than that, but you're close. It's about, it's about $18 US, but
what else? What else have we got here? JB Hi-Fi disposable. Oh wow, they can't be. No, they're not disposable. No.
The cost of film has gone up. They're those reusable 35 mil.
Yeah. They're like
you can get those too.
35mm co.
Grab one of those if you're interested in continuing to use film. I mean, they're really cheap, and they often come with 1 or 2 rolls of film. So it's a quick, easy way to try something different, to try film photography for one, and work within the limitations of a very, very rudimentary camera.
Yes.
You know, it's cheap. It's much cheaper than trying to find a decent new or secondhand film camera. And it's an interesting experiment.
And this has some good limitations in the sense that, you know, there's no settings or anything like that. So it really pulls it back to literally just like, is this photo interesting? And let's see what the camera does. And it takes away any of the kind of, you know, you trying to make the scene look better than it is.
Yeah, it comes down to exposure and composition. That's all. All it comes down to.
Yeah. So we actually, I did that as a gift for my family 3 or 4 years ago. I bought everybody disposable. Everyone got their own disposable camera at Christmas time.
That's a great idea.
Basically, from Christmas Day through to most people blew theirs out in that sort of week after Christmas Day, heading up to New Year's, when we're all spending a lot of time together and stuff like that. And then, like some of them didn't turn out, but some of the photos are wonderful. And and I got them all printed. So part of the gift was I bought them all the cameras, and then I got them all developed and printed into 6x4s. And I got an album made, but still to this day, no one's stuck them all into the album. So I've got a blank album ready to go. But the photos are all just sitting there in a stack. Anyway, we got close.
Yeah. The thought was there.
And
look, at the end of the day, they had the experience.
Yeah. I love that idea. So you're thinking like you grab one. I mean, you can start with just one. A challenge might be like one a month or something like that. But
well, that could be a challenge. But
just do
as
one
a
to start
kickstart, just go and get one.
Do one.
You know, if you're local, if you do online groceries and your local supermarket sells them, drop one in the cart. It'll show up. You'll forget about it. It'll show up in a couple of days, or get one off Amazon if you don't want to go out to the shops. I mean, at some point you have to leave the house to get it developed, unless you've got that stuff at home. But I don't recommend opening disposable cameras because they do have a what is it called? A solenoid that can explode. You've got to be careful because they have a battery. And they have like a little power thing.
Grant has a question for someone old enough to know whether what to do with this. Actually, maybe the drunk wedding photographer can tell us too. I film in my camera from, let's say, 2 years ago. Will it still be okay? Can I get it developed? ?
Yes. Yes to both. It should still be okay. Even if it's not, you'll still get some interesting visual
it's worth a shot.
Stuff going on.
Just be careful, depending on what camera it is, just be careful, taking it out.
Make sure it is actually fully rewound and
fully wound in, that you've shot the whole roll. I reckon I've got one that I need to do at some stage as well. Maybe
I picked up a couple when I was in Japan. I picked up a couple, and I would just every now and then pull it out and take some shots with it just for the hell of it, because it just, they're not the best film, and they're certainly not the best cameras. They're grainy. They're, what you see in the viewfinder isn't quite what you get on the image.
Exactly.
It's a lot of fun, and it's just a unique experiment. And do it with your kids, do it with your partner. Like Justin did, you don't have to buy one for the whole family. That's a bit excessive, but
it was a big Christmas. It was everyone's gift,
Yeah. No, it's a good gift. I'm teasing.
Yeah. No.
You're a very generous individual.
It was expensive though. Like by the time you added up the cameras plus the development plus the printing and the album, it was quite expensive. But it was I also got out of having to get gifts for everybody by just getting one gift, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah, nice and easy. But yes, Grant, definitely develop it. See what there is. Because from 2 years ago, do you remember what's on it? Do you remember what you shot with it? That in itself is an experience. You know, we often see these little internet stories of someone who finds a tin of unprocessed film, you know, from their grandparents or their estate, or, you know, or just from an estate sale. They pick up a bunch of old film and cameras and they discover that there's these amazing historical moments captured on these cameras. I know they've found them from war reporters, you know, from, you know, back in the day. So it's definitely worth doing.
Definitely.
The next one that I had was to shoot in black and white only. We talked about this as part of your, I know you didn't purely shoot in black and white JPEGs, but I think there's a lot to learn around tonal value and compositional elements when you remove color from the equation. And I don't just mean edit them in black and white. I mean set your camera so that when you look at the screen or through the viewfinder, it is black and white.
Yeah. And I did that a lot. Like you say, I didn't do it the whole time, but I did it for many of the full series. So I wouldn't be flicking back and forth between color and black and white. I'd be like, all right, today I'm shooting only black and white. Yep. And it does change the way you look at things. And it simplifies things too. I think it's like shooting with just one lens. You know, it has that same kind of effect where your brain gets to focus in more on shapes and light and textures and stuff because it forgets about color. And I think it can be a good way to kickstart a bit of creativity. It also, this might sound a bit lame, but it can also just make boring things look a bit cooler.
Like your feet in sunlight.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you take a photo of a laundry basket in black and white and people are like, wow, that really says something.
That's provocative.
In color, it's just boring.
Yeah, it is different because it's all about shade. It's all about light and shadow. It's such a different way to see the world. Grant is saying, I cannot remember what was on the films, maybe a couple of landscapes and my brother-in-law getting ready for his wedding. So imagine, Grant, if you process that and develop it and you get some amazing prints that he hasn't seen before.
Yes.
So
yes, we've got a bit of advice here as well.
Yes.
Drunk wedding photographer, film expert says, as long as it wasn't exposed to X-ray or direct sunlight, should be fine, especially if it's consumer film. It lasts a long time. I use expired fridge-stored consumer film for my weddings.
Wow.
So, yeah, you should be all good, Grant. Get it developed and then come on the podcast and show us what was on there.
Yes, please. I've got a box in my fridge full of unused film.
Same.
It's been there for about 5 years, I reckon.
I've got some Ektar 100 that I've really wanted to use.
You know what? I bought a whole bunch for an article I wrote for Lucky Straps during the pandemic about film.
Really? And you haven't shot with it yet?
No.
Oh.
No, it's all props. I had the best intentions to shoot with it, but
expensive props.
But I just haven't taken it out. And I like to shop for things.
Maybe we should kickstart our year off, our 2025, because I mean we're sort of still working through some of this stuff here, but I haven't really figured out what my photography goals are for this year yet.
Me neither.
I was hoping this episode would clarify it for me. And I mean, I kind of come into the back end of last year with a good challenge happening, the 12 photos every week thing. But I dropped the ball on that because things got very busy and I needed to clear some space in my brain by just hitting pause on that in December. I think I got to week 8. And I'm not I'm not excited to start that again. And I don't know whether I should just force myself to start again, or maybe, do we need something new? Do we go get a bit filmy to start this year?
Yourself and Jim are going to cut you. Oh, words, Gregory. It's what you do for a living. Myself, yourself, and Jim's self plan to meet up soon to do a bit of a street walk. Hopefully you come into Melbourne.
Yes.
We spoke the other day. I'm making plans to come to Bendigo soon and a couple of times this year for different things, but mostly to do Lucky Straps work and hang out and create that Fujifilm Lucky Straps that we've talked about. But maybe we should get some disposable film cameras.
Disposable. I mean, that's a good
like single-use film cameras.
Single-use film cameras. Yeah,
Just get one each. 27 exposure. That's our challenge for our street walk. We can still bring a digital. You know, maybe we set ourselves to bring one camera, one lens, or a camera with a fixed lens, and a disposable film camera, because they weigh like 100 grams, if that.
Yeah, maybe.
Take up, you know, and we just really set some tight guidelines, but we have a crack at shooting film and we get them developed.
But you've got some cool film sitting there. I've got some cool film sitting there.
Yeah,
do you have a
camera?
You don't have a film camera?
I've got one of those. No, that was years ago I had one, but I got rid of one. I've got one of those. It's a reusable film camera, but it's like one of those ones from JB that are really cheap.
I've got a ton kicking around. I just don't know how well they work. I've got a couple that work well. My Nikons, like the F5, and I've got an F100 too. But I've only got a few, like one lens for those now. Jim's still got lenses because these still. That's the cool thing. These still fit all the F mount Nikon lenses.
Yeah.
Well,
we can. You know, we could do either. We could. I like the idea of using the
black and white.
Yeah, that's true. Although I've got black and white film.
So
I don't know if you can get disposables in black and white. I don't think.
No, they should do that. They'd probably be really popular.
Yeah, they really should. Maybe we should market that. Maybe we should talk to Lomography.
Get a lucky version.
A lucky monochrome.
Yeah, maybe film. Maybe film's a good way to start. I don't know.
Either with a film camera or with a disposable.
Any excuse to eventually buy an M series Leica film camera,
another camera,
whatever.
Yeah, we should get Joel down from Newcastle in Sydney.
Apparently, there are black and white.
Oh, really? Oh, we need to get some of those.
Let's have a look. Oh yeah, Ilford.
Oh,
Ilford do a HP5 Plus, $23.
Is that Australian?
Yeah, Digidirect. I'm kidding. You're great, Digi. Not. No, you are. Are you?
No.
They're not. Yeah, Ilford. So HP5 Plus, single-use film camera, 27 exposure, black and white, HP5 negative film, ISO 400.
Yeah, I think we did that.
It offers. How many times have you heard this when it comes to film? Fine grain, high sharpness, wide exposure latitude. Ideal for every day, all day long shooting.
Well, not all day long because it's only got 27 exposures.
That's right.
Let's do that.
Oh, and Kodak do a Tri-X 400 one as well.
Oh.
Hang on, this is
There's a can of worms.
One time use. This one's double the price.
Oh, folks, we've got Justin shopping. We're never going to finish this podcast.
Look, I'll be back with you guys in a minute.
Next thing you know, he'll be on the bloody Fujifilm medium format GFX website. Did you guys know that for only $8,500 you can?
Yeah, they do tons of them. Oh no, that's back to color, but okay, not tons of them, but I've found at least two.
Oh, that's all right. They're
two
available.
Black and white options. Okay, thank you for that, David.
Yeah,
appreciate
thanks,
it. We had given up without even searching. We're like, oh, they don't do those.
No.
Apparently
we're clearly out of
Google
practice.
Search.
Yeah, we're clearly out of practice. Should we move on to the next idea for a challenge?
Yeah. Look, what else can people do in 2025? And by people, I mean maybe us.
Well, I've done this before, but I've changed my camera ratio in camera to 1:1 and shot square.
For Instagram.
No.
For your cats.
No.
No.
Don't be rude. Okay. I'm trying to be creative here. It changes the way you see the world.
It does.
Because we're so used to, naturally, we have a landscape orientation going on in our brains and our eyeballs. And we use that to reference how we see the world. And when you condense that to a square view, it changes things. It just changes your outlook. And I think it's a really simple, it takes 30 seconds to do in camera menu.
It's free. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to buy new equipment.
And it just equally, do some things like, every camera has a panoramic option. How many of you have actually used it? I know barely have. I think I've used it at the start, do a couple of test shots. Well, that's cool, and then stopped.
Yeah.
And play around with those camera modes.
And it could lead you in the direction of, obviously, there's medium format film cameras that shoot square. Obviously, you don't want to go out and spend the insane money people are charging for old Hasselblads and stuff just to test it out. But, if you shoot square for a few months on your digital and you find that you're loving it, there is places to take that if you want to push your photography in that direction. And likewise, those pano film cameras as well. There's heaps of different ones of those.
There's a new one coming soon, the Jeff Bridges one.
Yeah, exactly. But then there's also cheaper ones. I remember what was the Sprocket Rocket? Was it like Holger or someone made one? And it was one that it exposed all the way to the edges of the film.
Okay, not just within the frame.
On like a wider pano or something like that. So there's many there's a lot of those pano style cameras, and there's options that are a bit cheaper. But do it on your digital and test it out. Yeah, limit yourself to that.
But don't do it in editing after. Do it while you're taking the shot.
Yeah, get it in camera.
It'll change the way you see composition. It will remove that need to determine, do I do this shot landscape or portrait? You're just working with a square. It's really simple, which is cool. Next one. Document something.
Document
anything. A new plant growth.
Okay.
If you're a gardener and you plant seeds at a certain time of year, document that. A new pet or a new person in your house. If you've got, you've got a baby, and it's a very, I know they sound simple and silly, but often we lose sight of them, especially in a busy life. And there's little simple things going on around you that are worth documenting.
So it's kind of like, I'm sure a lot of people that have kids, especially photographers that have their first kid, probably take a ton of photos. Yeah. But you're saying it probably ends up being more in bursts, where it's like, they'll take a ton at a milestone or a ton at a thing, but maybe forcing yourself to just do anything, a photo every day, or something like that, or one a week, or one have a more of a regimented timeline. So it doesn't have to be some sort of milestone event, and it can just be one photo. It doesn't have to be this series of it's a first birthday and I'm going to take 1,000 shots.
Or combine it with our first challenge hint, which was to print 5 images a week.
Okay.
So let's say you've got a new baby and you're taking a ton of photos of the baby and the mum and you choose 5 a week and go and print them. Otherwise they're going to just live on your phone. It's just to get those juices going, I guess. I know it's a simple one.
Yeah, and extending the challenges all the way through the process to finished image in a form that's shareable. So rather than just like stopping at taking the photo or stopping at editing the photo, like the challenge can stop at making a book or whatever it is, printing them and delivering them to somebody. Put it, do it for the first week or month or year of a child's life, and put it in a book and put it away, and one day that's going to come out and be priceless to the family. I know it sounds simple, but it's and equally, that you see those ones where people do take a photo of the same thing every day. It doesn't have to be a child's growth. It could be on your daily commute. You walk past a park and there's a fountain, and every day there's different people around it, or dogs playing, and you just take the same shot of the same space every day that you're going past it. It's not necessarily creative. It's more habit forming, that it forces you to see how the light, the weather, the temperature, the season, the people changes the same scene to never be the same, every time. It's always different. But when you're commuting without a camera, it's, there's the fountain.
There's nothing different about it. But if you put a camera into that element and make it a challenge to photograph it every day, you start to see why that fountain is important to all those people, why it's, where it is, all that sort of stuff. Just little simple things. We've talked about using the one camera, one lens extensively, so I won't go into that one anymore. Look, all of our modern cameras have video function. How many of you have actually hit that switch and shot a video? You don't have to know what you're doing. You don't have to worry about, the shutter speed and anything like that. Just switch it to video mode and do it and upload it, download some free editing software or whatever's already on your computer, and just have a look. Just see the world and what you've experienced in a slightly different way than still images. It's just another visual medium, and it might teach you some stuff about your photography.
Yeah.
And you might discover that actually, maybe I could do some hybrid work like Justin does.
It's definitely daunting at the start. There's so many rules that seem different and counterintuitive, and there's so many things that are, do you have to shoot in log, or do the shutter speed have to be twice the frames per second? What frames per second do you shoot in for what situations, and all that sort of stuff? And you can Google all those things, but I wanted to do more video work. This was quite a few years ago now, and I was looking into all the stabilizers and all the different bolt-on things that you have to get that you see video guys with. You'll see them have these rigs around their camera with all sorts of screens coming off there and all sorts of stuff. And I was talking to Jared Singh, actually, who's he's an amazing photographer, but he's very much in the music industry, follows a big band around on their tours and stuff like that, but also does a lot of creative directing and things. And he'd done a lot of video work as well as photo work. And I asked him, I was like, dude, what gear do I need and stuff to be able to shoot video? And he's like, nothing. It's like shooting photos. It's just, they move. He's like, just don't worry about it. And I was like,
I love that.
I'm like, what about like stabilizers and stuff? He's like, nah, just hold it. It'll be all right. And he's like, just do it. You'll figure out if you need more stuff once you start making the videos. And I was like,
yeah, it's a good point.
Oh, I couldn't believe it. I was like, you sure there's not more to it? And he's like, no. He's like, they're just moving photos. Stop overthinking it. I was like, oh, thanks, man.
That's good advice.
Still took me a few years after that to even get going doing it.
Yeah.
But
I think my point is that there's no harm, no foul.
No, just try.
Like you've got nothing to lose, and it's just a digital file. If you do it and you're absolutely disgusted with yourself, then delete it and tick that off your list. Well, I gave it a shot. Maybe I'll try it again next year, or maybe I'll wait until I actually do pick up that better camera that's got, stability or whatever. But there's nothing stopping you from doing it right now. Don't overthink it. I think that's a good one.
I agree.
We talked about panorama modes. Something I sometimes do with street photography is I will look for a color palette rather than light and composition first. So I'll look for color first when I'm doing street. I'll be out and about, and I'll say, okay, well, I'm looking for blue elements in my compositions, and it changes the way you see the world because you are very specifically looking for something. And then you quickly analyze whether the light and the composition and the exposure fall into place and the subjects and those sorts of things. You kind of develop a bit of an eye for it. But just by saying to yourself, okay, I'm going to shoot everything that's, don't do green, especially if you live in rural areas, because that would just be too obvious. But, set yourself just a simple little challenge. I'm going to shoot, I love purple, for example. I don't, but, some do, and that's fine. But look for purple elements, look for green, look for blue, look for red, look for yellow, like anything that just changes how you normally look at a scene, because normally we're looking for composition and then followed by exposure. But start off with looking for the color first and then let the rest fall into place. Simple little habit that you can, it costs nothing. It's a quick win, and make sure you review your photos and have a look at it and think okay, well, I got the color, but I didn't get the composition. How would I do that differently next time? What settings did I use? It's a bit blown out. Okay, well, next time I'll have to, do whatever. And the last thing, which I kind of took from one of Justin's recent photography challenge, was just to document a day in your life.
Yeah.
Like a first person view of, this is what it looks like me making my coffee in the morning. This is what it looks like me, sitting on the edge of the bed contemplating, getting up.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be you taking a photo of you. It could be taking a photo of your feet hanging off the edge of the bed, or, just carry the camera with you and just be mindful that when things come up during your day, just regular day things, that you will just take a snap of it.
Yeah.
Simple little practices. Anyway, so there's some of the simpler challenges I think that anyone can undertake with, a reasonable camera, any camera, or even with your smartphone. If you're lacking a good camera, or you're lacking a digital mirrorless or a DSLR, you've got a smartphone. Many of these things apply to that. As long as you're 100%. Out looking for the light.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about shooting on a film disposable, I think it's probably pretty safe to say that the average smartphone has a higher image quality than a film disposable camera in terms of sharpness and blah blah blah. So don't let that hold you back. If you don't want to carry a camera around, the downside I find to phones, for me personally, is they don't feel particularly mindful. If that makes sense, in terms of maybe getting lost in your photography and finding an image and sort of detaching a little bit from, the busyness of everyday life. That's the only downside I find. Whereas obviously a disposable is almost the opposite to that, where it's like you've literally only got one button to press the shutter and then a tiny little viewfinder to look through that has no information in it.
But you've also only got 27 shots.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Which is a smartphone, it's endless. It's as much as your storage. And even then, if you've got cloud storage, it doesn't matter.
This is true.
But yeah, I agree. Using your smartphone, my problem with smartphone photography, one of them, I have many. I'm a salty old man. Actually, I just got a badge from a company that like a pin, a wearable pin. And it's the Australian Saxa salt bottle, the red and white and yellow one. Saxa salt. It's like the...
Oh, yeah.
Got like a red lid and a red text on it.
Yes.
It's that. And it's got written on it, salty as fuck. That's my badge. Anyway.
That's good.
What are we talking about? Smartphones. My problem with smartphones
hang on. I want to derail you for 1 second. This is the guy who just told us that most of the photos on his Instagram are from his phone of food and cats. But go on, tell us about smartphones.
Yeah, it's true. I'm shameful. I carry so much shame. No, my issue is that, I see a moment and I'll take a photo because it's right there in my hand most of the time. Yeah, we all have it either in our hand or in our pocket or on our desk. So I'll take the shot, but then it just goes into the gallery and I never look at it again.
Yeah,
it's different when you have a process with a digital camera where you take out the memory card or you plug your camera directly into your computer and you have to download your images or access them off the cloud or whatever you do. It's a different process to using a smartphone.
It is. It is for sure. Although there are some things that are getting put into the Apple Photos app, the albums that automatically find people and pets.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And even like, I think I was looking through there the other day, and there was some new stuff that was, I think it was something like summer memories or something like that.
Yeah, the way that it groups those.
Yeah, it's grouping things together that just aren't just trips or whatever or dates.
Yeah.
But there's one in here called Surfs Up, and it's like grabbed all of my surfing shots from various years and stuff. Yeah, it's quite interesting, and I like that way that's going, that it might encourage people more to look back on things that they've done, because I've got a terrible memory. I forget stuff that I've done and photos that I've taken. So if those little albums can help prompt me to have a quick flick through rather than having to remember the year that I did it or the place that I was in, I like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I know what you mean. They do get lost in that endless camera roll when you just shoot on your iPhone.
The thing I like with the smartphone, because I take a lot of photos of the pets because we've got so bloody many of them, and the kids are at a stage where they don't want to be photographed anymore, is it when I'm in the gallery, it'll come and say, "Who is this?" And I'll say, "Well, that's my cat." Like I'll say, "Biscuit." That's one of my cats. Her name is Biscuit. And then it will just know that every photo that looks like that cat is named Biscuit. And so I can just go, "Well, find me photos of Biscuit," and it brings up all the ones that I haven't had to tag individual photos, which always used to be such a pain.
Yeah, it's pretty clever.
Yeah, it is. Anyway,
AI, crazy.
Before we jump into the next few kind of larger projects, I just want to remind people that you are listening to the Camera Life podcast. And this is episode 44, and it's the 9th of January. This is our first 2025 episode. If you've just joined us recently, or you're watching along at home and you've fallen asleep as we mutter our way through this topic, brought to you by Lucky Straps out of Bendigo, Victoria. Justin is obviously the founder of Lucky Straps, and I am part of the Lucky Straps team too, and I do all of the content side of things. I'm not sure what Justin does yet, because Yelena does order fulfillment, Jim does customer service. Still trying to work out Justin's role in the business. Anyway, that's enough about that for now. Anyway, on to photography goals 2025. Justin, you're a king of this one. You're an absolute king of this, and that is embark on a road trip.
Yeah. You know what I'm not a king of, though, is probably making the most of the road trip with photos. Because like Grant was saying, he gets ahead. He's like mapped it out. These are the spots I'm going to stop. I'm going to get up at sunrise, take a photo here. I'm going to do sunset over there because it'll be a good angle and stuff. I'm not very good at that. Yeah. But certainly am good at a road trip. We've got a van, thankfully, so we can stop and start and pop along the road. And even when we're in the States, we did 30 days just driving in a hire car from crappy motel to crappy motel. I really regret not taking photos of each motel now that I think about it, because we stopped at a lot of them.
Yeah.
But it is a great idea if you do have access to a car or a friend's car. Yep. Even if the friend, if you need to grab a friend and say, "Hey, I'll pay for petrol. Let's go on a trip. I'll bring my camera and go on a trip with a friend somewhere."
Yep. And it doesn't have to be an overnighter. It can just purely be a day. And look, in the article that I wrote about 2025 photography goals for the site, I talk about, because I don't have a car. I do have a license. There's nothing nefarious about that. But I choose not to have a car. I live in a city. Sash doesn't drive, never has. And, we have we're a family of 7. I couldn't afford the car that we would need to move all those people anyway.
Oh, yeah. You'd need like a Tarago or something.
We used to have a Tarago.
Did you?
My late wife, Isabel, and I bought a Tarago when we were foster carers because we had lots of kids in the house and, on top of our 2 own children. And we had a Tarago. So we drove around in that. It was like a bus. It was one of the fancy ones. It had like,
was it
the captain's chairs with the armrests that come down and the pathway between
leather seats?
I don't remember if it had leather. It wasn't quite that fancy because we wouldn't have gone leather because we had kids. But it had like, you could walk between the 2 front seats into the back.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
The kids loved it because, we'd go somewhere and we'd have pulled over and parked, but they could just jump around in the back of the van.
Yeah, it's like a limo.
So good. Yeah, yeah. Have you seen some of the vans that are coming out of Japan now? Some of the Toyotas, they make these, the luxury models of vans, and they've got like big screen tellies in them and bars and, seats that fully recline, like airline seats.
Yep.
Like they're nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy. I love it.
Yeah, it is crazy. Nothing like your van, that's for sure.
No. Ours is not fancy, but it is functional.
It is good. Yeah. I really appreciate your van. Anyway, back on topic. Road trips. If you don't have a car, like me, jump on a train.
Yeah.
Jump on a train. And this can be another challenge that you could wrap into this. Pick a train line in your local city and just get on with a ticket and get off at every single station. Take a 5-minute walk and take a photo of whatever you see. Walk back to the train station, get on, continue on your journey.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a simpler way, or a simple way to meet the needs of a road trip. You know, sometimes I go out to Bendigo from Melbourne. So I'm in Melbourne, and by train, Bendigo is about 1 hour, 10 minutes tops from Melbourne. And, you know, there's lots to see along the way. And the train does make a number of stops depending which one you get. And, you know, there's lots of photographic opportunities everywhere you go. So it's just a road trip is a good way to, yes, you can plan. So you can be like Grant. You can plan all the things that you want to see, because you might not get to do it very often. And so you want to make the most of an opportunity, and you have some specific photography goals in mind. Or, which is what I like to do, head in a direction. Go north, west, east, south. You can jump on a random train line. I did that in Japan a few times, in Tokyo. It was some of my best days and best photographic experiences in Japan were getting on a random train line from Shibuya and just choosing to get off at a random stop 10 minutes later and just walking.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, you know, I wasn't following a tourist route. I wasn't following a what's on guide recommendation of places to go to do photos in Tokyo. Whilst I did reference those, and I did have some starred places, specific things I wanted to see, my best days were just getting lost.
Yeah.
You know, so road trips are good. Make the most of it. And yeah, do it with a couple of mates even. If you don't want to do a solo adventure, or you don't think you'll be inspired to do that, find a photography friend or a couple. Make a day of it. Stop for lunch somewhere. Go get a pie at a local pub or a bakery. You know,
explore.
Yeah,
it's a good experience. Places that are close enough that it doesn't have to be a big trip. Doesn't have to cost a lot of money.
Yeah,
just get out and do it.
The flip side of that, which is our next photography goal, is to travel. Now, it's not possible for everyone. Okay, health, physical limitations, and finance often stop us from being able to do travel as much as we'd like, or to the places we'd like. There's also a lot of shit going on in the world right now. Some places that you'd love to, some places that you'd love to go to probably aren't really accessible or safe at the moment. But there's plenty of stuff out there to do. You know, we talked about the day trip. Make it an overnighter. You know, stay at a caravan park if you're doing it on a budget. Rent a cabin. Pack a tent. If you've got a van, crash in the back of your van like Justin does. But travel somewhere. Travel interstate. And if you can afford it, and you're able to take the time and the resources, and travel overseas and see the world. I had no desire to travel overseas until my late wife passed away. She wanted to travel. We both did, but it just wasn't. But then I realized that life was too short, and there were things that I wanted to see in the world that may not always be there. And so a couple of years after that, I'd saved up some money and I went to Japan for the first time. And it was one of the most enriching experiences of my life. You know, I'm a different person now because of it. So travel has a lot to offer, both in terms of your personal growth, but also your creativity, as Justin talked about going to, you know, the States for almost 3 months. So much to see and experience that is just different, unique. Right. And it's not just about the photo that you get when you get home at the end of the day and you finally edit it. It's about the experience of being there, holding the camera in a different location.
Yeah, let the camera lead you to somewhere new that you might not have explored. As opposed to worrying too much about the specific photos that you want to bring home. But and on that too, like, you know, the vastly different price points going to the US for a decent length of time versus the trip that I took late last year to Vietnam for 10 days was a tiny fraction of the cost. But photographically, obviously the national parks and stuff in the US were insane, but photographically, probably as much, if not more, to explore in Vietnam. At a fraction of the price. You know, wait for a flight deal to come up. I think our flights were definitely under $500 return. Wait for a flight deal to come up. Find 5 places that you'd be happy to go to. You know, if you're just looking for something to do and explore, you don't have a specific destination in mind. Find 5 cities, you know, that you can fly into from your closest airport, international airport, and just keep an eye on the flights and wait for a deal to pop up. And when a deal pops up, if you've got the money popped aside and the time, just go for it.
Yep.
Do a week, do 10 days, and just go and get lost in another country somewhere.
Yep.
Watch a few old episodes of Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah, that's a good point. And if you can't get overseas for whatever reason, you know, make it an interstate travel. You know, fly to just fly to your nearest state or to the other side of the country. I've got a friend who lives in Launceston. Sash's family's from Launceston, so we have that as well now to visit. But I've got a friend, before I knew Sash, but I've got a friend in Launceston, and she would constantly beg me to come down, Launceston south, so down, come down and hang out. And so I'd always pack a camera. And it was, you know, the flights were cheap because it was just, you know, it's 1 hour flight tops to Lonnie. And I crashed with her and her husband. And, you know, I just carried the camera with me at all times, and, you know, got to see some new places and some amazing beaches and you know, Lonnie's a really small city, but it's surrounded by beautiful nature, and it was really quick and easy to get to somewhere nice. And, you know, just make a weekend of it. Go and visit a friend that you've been promising to hang out with for some time now, and, you know, make it a photographic experience as well.
Yeah, I love it.
Nice and easy. This one's a little bit more challenging. This is it's a little more complex, but it doesn't have to be. It depends on how much you want to invest in it. But I suggest that if you kind of have knocked off some of the smaller challenges off your bucket list, but you want something a bit meatier, then set yourself a year-long photography challenge. Now, that feels like a big, overwhelming undertaking, but it depends on what you're going to do. You know, you might know of a place nearby or live in an area where the changing seasons are very dramatic. And you want to photograph your local area over the course of a year, or perhaps a local national park or whatever it may be. Or perhaps there's a new grand scale construction going on in your area. And you know that over the course of the next year, it's going to be nuts. There's going to be so much work going on, and they're going to build something significant that will exist in your area for decades to come. Well, why not set yourself the challenge to go out and document that process over the course of the year? You know, there are lots of other things that you can do with annual photography challenges. It could be about documenting the people of your city. You know, a year in Melbourne, or a year in Bendigo, or you know, it doesn't have to be anything terribly complex in the subject matter, but it's more about how you document it and the experience that you have documenting it. There's a photographer who I followed, and he lived in India, and he would go to the same train platform every morning, because every morning the light would be a little bit different. The haze coming through, the people waiting for one particular train to arrive. So it was this train that went every day, and he would go down there. It was nearby. He would wander down there every day and photograph this train platform and what was going on it. And because it was in India, there was, you know, amazing color and vibrancy and a diverse mix of people from different socioeconomic backgrounds, and you know, it just created a compelling narrative that, for him anyway, and at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. If it's something that's compelling for you, it doesn't have to be something you're going to publish or put up on a gallery wall or show to even to your photography friends. It could just be a satisfying experience for you about a place that you find interesting. Don't get bogged down in what other people will think. That's the first rule of creativity, is to not worry about what other people think.
It's funny you say that, because in the challenges that I've done, the 30-day challenge and then the week challenge towards the end of the year, That's all. That's a lot of it was what I was thinking about was like, what's the internet going to think when I put this out there?
Yeah.
It's, which kind of, I mean, it probably helped me a little bit try and push to make the images more interesting, I guess. Because that was,
and there's a little motivation to be had in that too.
Yeah, but I like what you're saying in terms of, don't let it, doesn't have to be, a banger. Doesn't have to be the perfect sunset with everything lined up in the right spot with the birds flying off and just make something.
And it's the same with any of the ones that we've listed previously. So shooting your first video, going into 1:1 square mode, black and white only, panoramics. Another soul doesn't have to see your work. Not another soul. You're doing it for you and your creative experience and your learning and your fulfillment. I mean, at the end of the day, why do we do hobbies? Because it fulfills us. We don't do it to fulfill other people or their thoughts or needs or desires or expectations. We should be doing it for ourselves. And I think that gets lost a lot in photography because we now live in a world where everything, even the work of salty old fucks like me, sometimes we feel the need to publish it. You don't have to. Don't let that stop you.
No, don't let that stop you. Take some damn photos.
Just, chase the light. Another one, which is really, really important, and it's something that I am a huge advocate of, and thankfully so is Justin, which is why part of the reason why I'm here talking at your earballs and eyeballs every week is that join a photography community. It doesn't matter if it's a face-to-face camera club that has 20 members and you meet at your local church hall or the RSL or whatever it may be, or whether it's an online community with hundreds or thousands of people in it. Join a photography community because it allows you to see that you're not alone in your creative pursuits, that other people face challenges, other people face dips, ruts, lows, other people experience highs and periods of output where they're really, really impressed with what they're doing for themselves. Communities allow you to, I'll get to what you think about it in a sec, Justin, but for me, a community is essential to creative growth because it gives you a safe place and a platform to express yourself, to explore your work, to get feedback from peers, to feel motivated by others. All of those things kind of fall into it, which is what I love the most about what we do. What are your thoughts on community, Justin?
It's hard to find at the moment the place in between these bigger online communities where you don't often know each other that well. You do a good job of it with like the Fuji group. It's a large Facebook group. But
I think we're about 5,500 now.
Yeah, so it's massive online group. But you do photo walks, in-person meetups and things like that. That brings that group size down to something where you can really start to meet individual people. Yeah. Not a lot of groups are like that. And then the other issue is, that's in Melbourne. Where I live. Finding a community of like-minded people, it's tricky. To find one that's small enough to be that little bit more meaningful, I think. Rather than being the 16,000th person on a Facebook group or something like that. And that's where like camera clubs obviously do a great job of it. The Bendigo Camera Club's super active. It's, I don't know. For me, I'd love to find a group of people that want to go on trips and do that kind of thing, that have the time and stuff to go on some photography trips. But it's hard to find. I don't know. It is super important, but I see a bit of a gap there, and I don't know how you fill that gap up.
Yeah, I think there's a number of. I agree. You know, I live in a city. I've got a number of great camera clubs. I've got Melbourne Camera Club, um, which is I think Victoria's or Australia's oldest and largest camera club. They own their own building. It's in South Melbourne. I'm actually doing a talk for them in a few weeks. So I've got clubs around me, but if you don't, you know, there are other ways to feel connected. You know, you can sign up to some club newsletters. You might not be able to visit in person, but maybe you can stay engaged through newsletters. You can join a Facebook group. It doesn't have to be massive. My advice about joining online groups is this. Work with referrals of friends. Don't just dive into, don't just do a Facebook search for, you know, astrophotography clubs. Talk to other astrophotographers that you may know. Get some recommendations, because not all clubs are the same. The Fuji X Oz Club, which I talk about in the article on the Lucky Straps website, we set that club up. There's two guys that were the founders. One of them's still engaged with the club. The other one's just a silent partner. But they brought me on in about 2014, I think, 2015, when the club started, the group started, and we're all quite small. You know, I remember celebrating our 100th person. But we set out some really clear guidelines about how the group would be run and the expectations we placed on members. Because I've seen photography groups online that are a shambles. There is no regulation, there is no administration, there is no support, there's no recourse for poor behavior. It's kind of a bit of a, you know, a wildlands. But the group that I joined, and I think that with photography groups online, you get out of it what you put into it. And if it's not working for you, well, you go find another one, you know.
Yeah.
There's plenty of them out there, but do some research, get some referrals, make sure they've got a set of rules in place around behavior, around discrimination, bullying, harassment, because those sort of things can very quickly get ugly and can very quickly turn you away from your craft. Especially if you've got someone who is bagging out your work without constructive criticism.
Yeah, which you do see a lot on social media.
Yeah, you do see it. So do your research, find a club that works for you. But even if you don't want to join a club, you just want to get together every now and then with a group of people, plenty of cities offer meetups, a whole range of meetups. The meetup movement's pretty big. You know, there's all sorts of meetups. There's, you know, queer meetups and craft meetups. And there are also, some people do organize photography meetups. Like you were saying, just, you know, maybe catching up with a group of people that want to go and do something. You don't necessarily know them all, but over time you will get to develop relationships. And, you know, with the Fuji X Oz group, some of my best friendships were formed through that group. Ian Tan, who is a much loved alumni of our show, I consider him to be obviously a friend, but also one of my best photography mentors. He's taught me so much about the craft and about myself and my creative output. So I think there's a lot to gain, even if you're a bit of a introvert like me. There's still avenues out there for people to feel engaged and connected at a level that suits them. So yeah, that's it. Local communities, join it.
Track them down.
Track them down
and stalk them.
My next 2025 photography goal for all of you out there is to build yourself a website. Now, why on earth would people want to build themselves a website, Justin?
Well, here's a few reasons.
We didn't rehearse this, by the way.
No, we didn't.
Completely thrown him in the.
Here are the reasons that I tell everyone, including there's probably someone who's not listening that should hear this. They've been working on their website for a long time. Is you don't own what you put on your social media platform. You don't own the platform. You don't own your little space. It'll probably be fine. Instagram will probably be here forever. Facebook will probably be around forever, but it's not your spot. You don't own it. Put something on your own website that you've got control over, even if it's just to start with just your 10 favorite photos and a little bit about you. Start with that. But it's something you can control the design of it, what goes on there, and it could be a place for your work to live from now into the future. And if you start now, it's like planting a seed. You start now, like who knows what that website will look like in 10 years, what things you'll add to it, what work you might get from it. You know, even if you're just someone who's just a passionate amateur landscape photographer, and then someone comes along and says, I love that photo. Could I print it? You know, I'm happy to pay you or whatever. Like you never know what might come from it. And obviously that same stuff can happen with social media, but I think having your own space that you can control is something that all photographers should have. There is a little bit of cost involved. It's not much, but you know, you get a domain name. You don't always need a domain name, but I think it's nice rather than having something that's, you know, at Squarespace, something, you know, have your own domain name. It might cost you $20 to $40 a year. And then depending on what website service you want to use, that could cost you a monthly fee, or you can find free ones, but they're often a little bit limited. But I don't know.
And
I think it's very worth it.
They often have advertising you have no control over.
That's right. You don't want advertising on there.
No. I think you're right. And I'm sure you're pleased to hear that I think that. But having your own website, I started my website in 2013. And I did it because I was musing, considering my first trip to Japan. And I started writing about it. And this is when I first started writing online. I wasn't working at that point as a writer. I was still recovering from grief, and I just started writing about that a little bit, but also about how photography was changing my outlook on life. And then I started talking about my plans for Japan. And then I talked about my time while I was in Japan. And so I was adding photos to all of these elements. So every blog I wrote was my photos, my words. And that's how I discovered that actually I like writing. I like telling stories. I like documenting things, and I like explaining them in a way that people find meaningful, maybe inspirational, who knows. And it was from that someone picked up that I wrote blogs. And it was through that Mark, who we've had on the show a couple of months ago, Mark Condon from ShotKit, discovered my work and asked if I would like to write for ShotKit. And now that's what I do for a living. I write photography-related content, just like I did on my blog. And I take all my own photos still for those articles. Pretty much all of the articles I use my own photos. Some are supplied to me by brands, but you know, that's what that led to for me. And whilst my blog is sorely lacking updates, I discovered a new path for myself through just building a website. Initially, it didn't cost me much because I wasn't, you know, it was just a bit of a hobby. But now that it's a bit more about my brand, I pay a bit more for my own domain name and the amount of storage I have on it and all that sort of stuff. I don't use it. I think I've got one set of client work on there that's behind a password, and that's for my friend in Launceston for their wedding and their engagement. But that just made it convenient for them to be able to access the photos. But it's purely for me to put my words and images on, just as a kind of, a means of holding them in a safe place.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot to say for it. And like you said, it doesn't have to be expensive.
It also doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be custom. And especially like if you look at Greg's website, you know, it doesn't, just because he loves writing and is great at writing, you don't have to write a blog to go with your images. You know, like if you're not into that, literally just put the date you took the image, or the metadata from the camera, or 3 words, title the image something, or don't put anything at all. It's completely up to you, but don't let that stuff stop you from just getting it up there and getting it started.
Yeah. And there's plenty of sites like WordPress. WordPress is more Word. You can do photo sites, but Squarespace is probably the most user-friendly.
It's the easiest.
And the easiest.
Definitely, to get started with. But it will.
And the plans are clear. They're not confusing.
Yeah.
And as you build, you know, over time, which is what I found with WordPress, even as I discovered that I want to use more of the features on offer, well, then that's when the price goes up. But that's fine. That's a choice that you get to make. You're not forced into anything, you know, but just make a start. And to start with, you don't have to share it with anybody.
Yeah.
It comes back to that whole thing. Do it for you. Do it so that you have somewhere other than a postage size image of your favorite photo on a phone screen that you might forget you took.
Yeah.
Put it on a website. Make it so that you can click on it and it enlarges. You know, a lot of them offer templates like that. Oh, sorry, that was my bad.
Yeah,
I've lost my mouse.
A couple of like the process as well of choosing, say, to start with just your 12 best images to go on a gallery that lives on the homepage. Even that process can help you tell a little bit about yourself, where you're at the moment as a photographer, what you enjoy taking images of the most, and that can help guide your year ahead in terms of what you want to shoot. What other images would you like to see on your own website that you don't have yet?
Yeah.
What images have brought you the most joy in the past? So the process of finding, because don't put a million images up on your website. That's one thing I can definitely say. You start small, keep it refined. It can often be harder to refine down to a set of images than it is to just throw everything up on there, but it's worth the effort, because the people that look at your website won't have the desire to sort through hundreds of images.
Yeah.
Give them a nice, concise set of what it is that you like to do, what you're most proud of.
And be mindful of that experience, learn from it. And then look back at stuff. You know, at the end of the year, go back and review your year, and maybe make a new mini gallery of what you think are your best photos of 2025, and pick your 12 best, one for each month maybe, or, you know, set yourself some little parameters to work within. So have some fun with it. It doesn't have to be serious and strict, you know.
I should probably redo my website.
Yeah, I think you should.
It's been down for a long time. Currently it's just a homepage with a bit of a gallery that scrolls through, and it's got my phone number on it, and that's it. A couple of links to email me and camera straps and stuff like that. But it really doesn't say much about who I am, and it hasn't got updated images. So I should take our advice and get onto that this year too.
Yeah.
But
I think you should.
It's one of those things. I spend a lot of time on the Lucky Straps website. So this one kind of gets put on the back burner a little bit.
Same. I spend my career writing now. So doing personal blogs feels like it's a little more challenging than it used to be. Because I kind of find that I've used up all my words when I remember to do it. And it's like, I've used up all my words and I haven't taken photos for a month. And so I can start making excuses.
You could use ChatGPT for your website.
Get fucked. I'm not doing that.
No?
There's no way. No.
Oh, dear.
No.
But so you don't use it for other client stuff, but use it for your own personal website. Just give it a prompt. What's
not supporting that filth?
That filth. Oh, dear. It's taken over.
I'm only one step away from it replacing my career. So, you know, let's just not mention it.
Oh, never mind.
And that kind of go on. Sorry, you were going to say?
I was going to say, what else? Have we got anything else? We're a couple hours in now.
We are a couple of hours in. I will say this: the most important thing with resolutions, if you kind of swing that way, is to make the plan and start today. You know, like, do one of the simplest thing. Go onto Amazon now and order a couple of disposable film cameras right now while you're listening to us. Do it right now. Just go and do that. And then that's one of your challenges already underway.
Start today and don't let a particular date or anything get you, you know, like if you had thought, I really would have liked to do a 365 project for 2025, but it's already, you know, whatever. What are we on the 9th of January? You know, I've already missed it. Who cares? Start today. Start and even if you want to do a photo a day for 365, just start with 7 days and just get to the end of that week and look back and go, am I enjoying this or am I not? Or do I need to refine this to a different style of project or something like that? So don't overthink it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Just get going on whatever idea appeals to you the most. Get going on it right now. You can always change. Doesn't matter. I paused my project. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But if you overthink it, never start, then you won't do anything. So
yeah, you've achieved nothing, because life gets busy. We've all sort of just coming out of that. Well, not all, but a lot of people are now just coming out of that holiday period where we've got to start shifting our thinking into work and responsibilities and whatever else is coming up in life. And before you know it, it'll be April, and you'll have missed a season, you'll have missed growth, you'll have missed time, and you'll have missed, potentially great light for the subject that you were pondering making a challenge. So, do something today, even if it is Google Squarespace and see how much their plans are. Do a Google search and find out where your local print kiosk is. Order some disposable cameras. Pick up your camera right now and set it to black and white JPEG or 1:1 square ratio, or understand how to turn your camera to video. There's little steps you can do right now, so that the next time you pick up your camera, whether it be tomorrow or on the weekend, you go, oh, that's right, I was going to shoot a video. Oh, fuck it, I'll just do it now.
Yeah.
And just do it. You don't have to do it for anyone else but yourself. And I know that's easier said than done, because I've been a bit flat with my photography. I haven't picked up my camera in a month. And other stuff gets in the way, and it's easy to lose sight of your creative needs over what you think are essential things in your life. And many of them are. But just find a moment, even if it's 5 minutes in each day, to do something that's for your creative self. And that hopefully will have a bit of a snowball effect, and you'll start to build something. And if it works for you, go and get yourself a cheap notebook and a pencil and start making some notes. Jot down some things. Keep that notebook in your camera bag. And so when you're out and about and you think, oh, I should do this, write it down in your notebook. Don't put it in your phone. It just gets lost with everything else. Put it in your notebook and title that page Photography Goals, Inspiration Ideas, Challenges. Have a separate page for each. But have a read of our blog on the Lucky Straps website and see if that we've covered a lot of it today, most of it, in fact. And that was the purpose of today's show. We don't have a guest, so we thought, look, let's start the year off right. But yeah.
Love it. Should we leave it there?
I think we should leave it there. We're on. We've just hit 11 a.m. here in Victoria, Australia. We've been chatting for a couple of hours. I think we've done pretty well without a guest.
Yeah, I think we've wandered around for a couple of hours.
What was that?
Found ourselves.
What was
again.
that?
Yeah, I mean,
what was that non-committal response?
Like maybe 6 out of 10.
I poured my fucking heart and soul into this article, and I get a You see what I'm dealing with, folks? If you're watching along and you have an arsehole of a boss too, please let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. No, I'm joking. Justin's the best boss I've ever had. Not that he's my boss, but, I'm my own boss. Was that crickets?
No.
Did you just play crickets? Oh, that is...
maybe I should have used the sound effects before. I really love these.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I like the crickets. The crickets are good. Yeah, but rude. Anyway.
All right.
No,
let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up. Folks at home, folks at work, folks working from home like Grant, thanks for joining us. This is our first podcast of the new year of 2025. We've got a lot planned for this year. We're just in the middle of a planning stage. And we're looking at shaking things up a little. We're going to probably stick with our Thursday morning show, because consistency is king, and we love it. And it works for most of our guests too, which is good.
Yes.
So we're going to continue with our weekly show. Pretty much most of them will always have a guest. And don't forget we've also got some blogs coming out on the Lucky Straps website that talk about those episodes and go into detail about our guest and their experiences and influences and inspirations and work and all those sorts of things too. So stay tuned for those. But Justin, we've got some other plans. What are some of the things that you think we should do with this show moving into the new year? What are some of the ideas you've had?
We're playing with the idea of trying another time slot, maybe an an Australian time evening show earlier.
Second show.
Second show.
Yeah.
That's a little bit more. Maybe we bring on a few past guests. Keep it to more like an hour, and just have a good time. Talk crap. Talk about. So maybe we'll move rather than talking about any news or anything like that when we've got guests on. We'll save all of that for this other show. So news, rumors, maybe some photo critiques. Critique our own photos, critique your photos if you want. We're just playing around. It'll be kind of like the random show, the catch-up show, and hopefully we can get, maybe even 4 or 5 people on it sometimes, just to all come on and throw their 2 cents in. And
can we call it the double exposure?
Why?
I don't know. It just came to me.
Okay.
I have no reason. I have no understanding of how the words come, but they just do. Justin, and it's the chat GPT here on my phone. Justin, I think we're also considering maybe some panel-like shows every now and then, just to talk about, how to run a photography business, how to set up a photography business. So we might get some people that are just starting their photography business on the show, as well as some people that have got some decades of photography business experience behind them.
Yes.
And it's not to have a debate necessarily, but it's to help others who are watching and listening understand some of the challenges, some of the ways to overcome those challenges, and just some insights into, because, we've all considered it at some point. Can I make money out of this? I
think there's a lot we could do with that too. I'd love to do some, if people have the what would you call it, fortitude for it, we could do some website reviews. If you've got a photography business website, you're trying to attract clients. If you want us and maybe a couple of other experts, I say experts loosely, just people that have been around, and we don't know the right answers, but we can certainly give you some ideas. I've got a lot of website experience, so I've got a few ideas like that. But to start with, more interviews. Hopefully we've got a few good ones coming up, and this new random show, and hopefully this person won't be leaf blowing right outside my window in the next episode.
That's right. This seems to happen every week. I guess it's the time. Every week. Of course, we don't all have ground staff. My place is perfectly silent. But so stay tuned for that, folks. We're going to do some collaborations probably with some other podcast channels. Stay tuned for that. We've got a bunch of stuff on the burner. We're chewing through some ideas. The Lucky Straps team are catching up regularly to talk about this sort of stuff and work out what we can do. But on that note, I'd like to thank you all for listening and watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Let your friends know about it. And please don't be afraid to comment, either live or after the fact. Ask us your questions. Let us know if you've got an idea for a show that you'd like to see, a topic you'd like us to cover, or a guest.
Or if you want to come on the show. Do you think you'd be a good guest? Come on our show. We'll take anyone.
Yeah, we are whores for photography.
Come and join us.
Come and join us. Let's just talk. No pressure. And we'll just chat. That in itself is community.
That's right.
See what I did there? I circled back.
Good job.
Thanks,
all right. I'm going to roll the music and your favorite sound effect.
Clearly I'm talking too much.
Oh, no, not that one.
Let's just play them all. Have a great week, everyone. Get out and shoot. Chase the light.
See yous.